big. Turn your paper so you're working horizontally. It's just a little bit easier that way. Start by drawing in your circle, and this is just a sketch. Okay, so when I draw, I always create gesture lines, right? So that you can get the right shape. And then erase the extras. Okay, the cube, remember what we learned with perspective. Whatever happened in the front happened in the back. So for the cube, go ahead and draw the angles that you see. So it kind of is going up, and then whatever this angle is, this angle is. Whatever this angle is, this angle is. And then it's going out this way. So these are all the same angles, and then a vertical line. And then whatever this angle was, this angle is. And whatever this angle was here, this angle is. That's how you get an accurate cube. And it's okay if it's not perfect. I mean, the idea with this project is that we're practicing value. Now for the cast shadow on this one, you can see the cast shadow right here. Okay, for the cast shadow, you'll notice that this line goes straight out. It just continues through for the cast shadow. So whatever this line is, just continue it straight. And then whatever this angle is, it mimics it. And then to end the cast shadow for the cube, this angle is this angle, same exact direction. And then I forgot to do the cast shadow under the sphere, which will be just like an oval like this. And then the cylinder, go ahead and draw that guy in. So it's kind of a flat oval for the top of it. Straight lines down. Cylinders are rounded, so it's not a straight line at the bottom. No straight line. It's a slightly curved line like this. So whatever this curve is, just so you guys know, whatever this curve is right here, that's what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be kind of like the same idea of the curve. So if you need to curve that a little bit more, you can. I needed to do it to mine so that they match. And I'm not going to do the cast shadow yet. I want to show you, there's a mistake on this worksheet. So I'm going to show that to you in 1 second. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the cone. Cone is straight lines on either side, except for the bottom is a nice curved line because it's a round bottom. One thing I want to show you is the tutorial. Now, we found this, we've been using this tutorial for years. I don't even remember where we found it. It's a really good tutorial for practicing light logic. It literally walks you through what light does to a basic shape. What you would normally do is you would start by shading your value strip, which I'm not going to make you guys do because we've already done it, but you would shade it. So this says 0, so that's white paper, you don't have to do anything. Then you have 10% pressure. Then you have 25% pressure for number 2 and 50% pressure for number 3. And you would just go all the way down until you get to the darkest value you can get. So it's that nice transition of value from dark to light. And then you go through the tutorial. You would first do the little sphere where it's walking you through. You do a number 1, so whatever pressure you applied here, that's what goes here. And then what 2, 3, 4 looks like it's the darkest section, and so on. And then it shows you how to do the cast shadows and everything. So that's how the tutorial works. Now the issue with this tutorial is that whoever drew it didn't create an accurate cast shadow for the cylinder or the cube. The cast shadow is wrong. And I mentioned this when we went over light logic and still lives briefly, like the rules when we took notes. The cast shadow, the shadow that's being cast onto the table from the object actually starts where the core shadow is. The core shadow is the darkest shadow on the object. So if you look at the cylinder, you see where it says 4 right here. That's your darkest core shadow on the object. That's where the cast shadow starts. It does not start over here where it's 0. That makes no sense. The cast shadow starts where the darkest shadow is. Same with right here. Number 4, the cone, you can see it's a diagonal core shadow. That's where the cast shadow begins. So as I'm drawing on my paper, okay, right here, let me fix this. This is going to bother me. Okay, my core shadow is going to go here. So I'm just going to kind of sketch that out. That's where my darkest section is going to be. And so right there is where my cast shadow will begin. And it's just like a little oval like that. So you see how the core shadow comes down, the cast shadow starts from there. So that's just kind of a rule, and I don't know why that tutorial is off, but that doesn't make sense. Do the same thing with our pyramid. I'm sorry, our cone. Here's my core shadow. It's a slight diagonal. Where that starts is where my cast shadow will start. All right, so we have our drawings done. We're going to start right here with a nice easy one, the sphere. So I'm now going to use my graphite pencil. If you can make sure your pencil's sharp, that's great. If you don't have a graphite pencil, a number 2 pencil, an HB pencil, any of those regular pencils are fine. Try not to use a mechanical pencil. They don't really shade really well. Okay, so what I like to do first when I'm drawing and shading is I will first map it out, okay? So where's the light source coming from? Based on the tutorial, the light source is coming here. It's going to hit our object right here, okay? So let's figure out where that highlight is. The highlight is the part where the light hits the object. You leave it paper white usually. So it's going to go about right here. I'm just going to draw a light oval. That's going to be my highlight. I'm going to leave that white. Then I got to figure out where the core shadow is. That's the darkest value. The core shadow wraps around the object. So whatever your object shape is, that's what happens with the core shadow. So this is a round object. So my core shadow is going to be round. Or curved, almost like a C shape. So draw that in. And now we're good to go. That's all you have to do to map it out, right? I know where the lightest section is. I know where the darkest section is. I know what the cast shadow looks like. Now I can shade it. From the darkest section, it goes from dark to light. So nice transition of dark to light. I also know that there's reflective light where the light source hits the table and bounces back up. You're going to get light again right here. So you just got to kind of be aware of this. Think of all the rules. Highlight, core shadow, reflective light, cast shadow. Okay, you can start wherever you want. I'm going to start with the cast shadow, nice and easy. So it's dark, really dark underneath the object. So I actually will start by outlining. I know this is going to be really, really dark. So that's so easy. When it's dark, you just press hard. And as the core or the cast shadow moves away from the object, it does get lighter. Okay, so I'm going to press hard under the object and then, less pressure as it gets further away. So nice transition of value from super dark to not as dark, but still dark. Okay. That's real easy. Cast shadow is nice and easy. And the more value you have, the darker you go, the more drama it creates, which it creates a really nice piece. So sometimes we're afraid to go dark. Don't be afraid to go dark. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with the core shadow. I know the core. Okay, I like to work dark to light. We kind of went over this a little bit when we did colored pencil. That's just how I work. I work dark and then I slowly ease up on pressure, or I change the value so I work to the lighter values. Not all artists do that. Some artists like to build up value. They like to work light and build to their darkest value. I just go straight dark. I think it creates a bolder look. So that's what I like to do. So that's how I teach you to do it. You don't have to do it like me. If you would rather go super light and then work your way darker, that's fine. Okay. You do what makes you happy or is easiest for you. I'm gonna go dark. So I'm gonna go real dark right around here. Try not to let it become a line. Okay. That's why I'm kind of scribbling it in. And I'm going to work down to the cast shadow first. And I know it gets light again right here because that is our reflective light. So it's going to get light again right here. So I went dark along here and then it eased up on the pressure. So it got light. And then I'm going to keep working my way around. Now, one thing you don't ever do, ever do when you're drawing realistically, you can't have outlines. There's no outlines in real life. Okay, we're not walking around with a black outline around our bodies. Our cup on our desk doesn't have a black outline around it. There's no outlines, and I'm going to try to emphasize this a lot during this unit. But when I'm drawing, I'll start with an outline, right? So I'm going to clean up my edge right now using the tip of my pencil. I'm going to make sure I have a nice clean edge, not a fuzzy edge, not a blurred edge. You see how I outline that to make it nice and clean? I'm not going to leave it like that though. So whatever pressure I applied to create that line right there, I'm going to bring that pressure, same pressure in so that that line disappears and becomes value. Okay, so I did outline it to get a clean edge. I didn't leave it as an outline. I brought that value in so that it disappeared and became part of the shading. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I also color in small, tight circles. And I'll color in opposite direction. So I'll go one direction and then flip it and go the opposite direction on top. Okay, so that's good. So now I'm going to work my way to my highlight. And once again, I'm going to kind of outline because I want to make sure I clean up my shape, but I have to outline really gentle up here, barely applying pressure because that's our lightest section. So now you're going to go from that transition from super dark core shadow to your lightest section, which is the highlight. So slowly apply less pressure, small tight circles. Small tight circles around that. Okay, that's it. It's a little grainy because I'm working on, I'm in an actual sketchbook that's using drawing paper. So the paper has a tooth to it is what we call it. It's like a texture kind of, so it's creating that texture. If you're fine with that, then leave it. If you're not fine with it, or you don't like the blending that you created, maybe it's not as smooth as you wanted, then you have a couple options. Okay, you can blend it out using a tool. There are lots of ways to do that. You don't have to go out and buy something. You can grab a piece of tissue like Kleenex, and then if you like twist the tip of it to a point, you can use that to blend. You could use a Q-tip to blend your value and the graphite together. You can also use your finger. So if I took my finger, I could blend this out. You just gotta be careful because our fingers can't be shaped into a point, and then they get a little bit they're a little bit chubby working on something like this, so it kind of gets out of line. You have to go back and fix it, but definitely you can use your finger. Or if you would rather buy one, if you think you're going to use it a lot, maybe you're super into art, you can get one of these. This is called a blending stem, and it's basically compressed paper formed into a point. And you can use this to blend your value so it's nice and smooth. I'm not going to do it because I'm happy with the way this blended, but you can absolutely use something like this if interested, and you get small ones and thicker ones, and they come in different shapes and different materials. And you can sharpen this. You just use it on like a piece of sandpaper, and you can rub it on sandpaper and it'll continue to create that nice sharp point for you. But that's an option. I'm gonna leave mine. I'm happy. All right. We're gonna go to the next one, which is the cube. Thank you, Christian. It's just practice. Remember, I've got lots and lots of practice, years of doing these demos over and over and over again. And I've been doing art since I was a tiny kid, so lots of practice goes in, like anything. If you're doing a sport, the only way to get good at your sport is practice, right? If you're playing an instrument, the only way to get good at your instrument is practice. Okay, let's go ahead and do the cube. Now let me show you the tutorial because it's a little bit tricky. Cubes are a little harder because they're all flat edges. There's no curved edges. So light hits each side differently. So if you look at the tutorial, we know that the light source is coming from the same direction as it did for the sphere because the 0 is right here on top. So once again, it's coming from this edge. So it's going to hit here. The top is going to be your lightest. This is going to be second lightest side, third lightest side, and then of course, or the cast shadow is going to be the darkest section. You'll notice it has a 2 right here pointing to the bottom edge here because of the reflective light. So just kind of be aware, this is our darkest side, but reflective light is going to occur right about here at the bottom. So we just got to be aware of that. If you're using a kit of graphite pencils, the top, I would use an H right now. So if you have a lighter pencil, I would use an H for the top. I'm going to use a 6B. So I just have to be really careful I don't go super dark. So based on the tutorial, this is our lightest side. So I'm going to go ahead and barely apply pressure. It's hard with a 6B because it's a darker pencil, and have it kind of fade off. You want to have a nice clean edge, remember, but we don't want outlines to show. So I just got to be careful with how I'm cleaning up my edges. I don't want to go too dark. Also, you'll notice I have an outline here and here for my cube. And you can't have outlines, right? So if this were a realistic drawing, I could, and I know that the top kind of is paper white, right? It went to a 0 based on the tutorial. How the heck would I show that edge? The answer is that you probably have a value behind the object. You have drapery behind the object. You have a shadow behind the object. You have another darker object behind it. So what I would do is I would pretend that I have a shadow or like a background. And that's how you get edges. You get outlines or the edges of your objects to be outlined, not through an actual line, but through value contrast. So I have a background back here. You see how it's outlining the edge of my object for me? And I'm just pretending. You guys do not have to do this. I'm just trying to show you that you don't ever have an outline. You have a background, or you have an object behind that object that's creating a darker value contrast that separates it. So now I have a darker background. That's how I'm getting the edge of the object, not through an outline. Same thing happened here. You see how you can see the difference between the sphere and the cast shadow? And it's not an outline. The cast shadow is darker than the object. That's how they're separated, not through an outline, through value contrast. Okay, so that's lighter. If you look at the tutorial, the next one is, it's a 3 to a 2, so darker now. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little darker. I like to start with kind of an outline, and then I bring that value out. So it's kind of a 3 in the bottom left, and it turns to a 2 is what they're saying. So it gets lighter as it moves closer to where that light source was. So nice smooth transition. Pressure, less pressure, kind of what we're going for. Also go in opposite directions to smooth it out. Also go in small tight circles to smooth it out. And of course, try to avoid outlines. Okay, let's take a look at the tutorial. This is where it gets darker. This is the darkest side of the cube, but it's light right here at the bottom, right? That's where the reflective light is. So I'm going to start at the bottom and go kind of light, and then it's going to get dark. You still want the reflective light to kind of blend in, though. You don't want it to be like super harsh. I gotta make my background darker so it doesn't match. What I might do, and sometimes I do this, you see how my edges aren't super clean, they're a little blurred. In that case, I would either, I need to sharpen my pencil, or I'm just gonna use a, in this case, a mechanical pencil, and I'm just gonna clean up the edge. I want it to be nice and straight, and the graphite pencil is not sharp enough right now to get that. So you're totally allowed to do things like that. So I would not use a mechanical pencil to shade, but you can definitely use it to clean up edges and to draw. Something like that. Okay, and then the last thing is the cast shadow. The cast shadow is super dark, like a number 5 right here, and then it fades off, just like the other one. So I'm going to press really, really hard right along the edge of the cube and ease up on the pressure as it moves away. Nice smooth value transition. And I'm having that same issue where the line is just a little blurred, and I don't like it. So I'm going to use the mechanical pencil to get a cleaner edge. So once you kind of get value down, don't just leave it. Go back and refine it. Like, make sure your edges are clean. Make sure you don't have an outline. Make sure the value is blended smoothly. Like, if you can see the direction you were coloring, it's not smooth, go in tight circles on top of it, go in the opposite direction on top of it, whatever you need to do. And that's essentially what would happen if you had an object that had straight edges. Okay, and then the last two, are we okay? The last two are going to be the easiest ones. These two are so easy, okay? And we already have it mapped out because we needed to map it out to figure out where the cast shadow goes. So let me just do, I think I'm gonna just show you guys, and then you guys are gonna do these ones on your own because they're easy enough to do. So here's my cylinder. I know where the core shadow is. I know where the cast shadow is. It starts where the core shadow is, right? So this, and I'm gonna have reflective light again right about here. So I just gotta be aware of that. But this is my darkest section. So I'm gonna go dark and then have it kind of fade off. Just a little bit. It's easy to do a cylinder and a pyramid, or I keep calling it a pyramid, a cone, because they're straight edges. Like the sides are straight. I mean, they're curved, but the shadow represents a straight line. So this is my darkest side, and then it's going to get lighter as it gets to the other side. Super light right about here. And then the top is going to be, it's kind of like a flat, it's like the flat top that that occurred with the square or the cube. It's going to be light maybe over here, just slightly, and then it's going to become white paper on the other side. Something kind of like that. Do you see my smudge prints everywhere? Here and here and here. My hand is sitting, it sat on like something like my cube, and I picked up graphite and now I'm smearing it everywhere. As you're working with graphite or charcoal, which we're going to work with charcoal, charcoal's way worse than graphite. You have to take a piece of paper, an extra one, lay it down, and then put your hand on that piece of paper. Otherwise, you'll just smear graphite everywhere. And then notice how I have all of these eraser marks. Don't take your hand and smooth them away. You'll smear your graphite everywhere. So what I do is I'll erase, and then I'll actually dab with my fingers and pick up the marks or the eraser marks, okay? You can also blow it, but don't ever smear it away. All right, and that's basically all you're gonna do for the cube and the cylinder, nice and easy. I'm gonna have you guys do these on your own because they are easy enough for you to do on your own. Remember your core shadow, I'm sorry, your cast shadow is super dark under the object, and then it gets lighter as it moves away. And then try to avoid outlines as you guys work. Use the tutorial as needed, so it'll be something kind of like that.